Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. We're hitting it all alone tonight. We know we don't have any guests or co-hosts, but I've got plenty of news stories and some interesting things to talk about. So I take this opportunity to say that we're always looking for guests and co-hosts. Come on by the show every Monday night at 7:30. That's behind the Sheldon High School in Willa-Kinsey at the Community TV 29 studios. So at 7:30 every Monday night, you're welcome to come on by and visit, watch how we do it, and participate if you'd like. So I want to get right into a story. This comes out of this came from out of San Diego, the NBC San Diego. USCSD student forgotten by the DEA to get millions. The U.S. government will pay $4.1 million to avoid a lawsuit against federal agents who forgot about a UC San Diego student left in a holding cell for days without food and water. Daniel Chong spent 5 days in the Drug Enforcement Administration holding cell in April 2012. Taken into custody on a DEA raid, Chong was left in a windowless room without food and water. He was forced to drink his own urine, hoping it would help him stay alive. Chong's attorney, who along with his client threatened a lawsuit against the DEA, announced the $4.1 million settlement Tuesday. What happened to Daniel Chong should not happen to any human being, Attorney Gene Iredale said. Iredale said it was a San Diego Police Department officer by the name of Darren Rees who told Chong on that first day that someone would be right back to get him. The officer was part of a DEA task force made up of local, state, and federal law enforcement. It was an accident, a really, really bad, horrible accident, Chong said Tuesday regarding the officer's alleged mistake. The UC San Diego student was at a friend's house in Universal City celebrating 420, a day many marijuana users set aside to smoke when agents came inside and raided the residence. Chong was then taken to the DEA office in Kearny Mesa. I had to do what I had to do to survive, Chong told NBC7 after the incident. It's so inconceivable. You keep doubting they would forget you. When he was eventually found, Chong was incoherent and suffering from kidney failure. He was rushed to the hospital, where he spent 3 days in the ICU. More than a year later, the DEA that put him there is paying the price. Defense attorney Gretchen von Helms, who is not representing Chong, previously estimated the settlement could be in the $2 to $3 million range. You break it down into the pain and suffering and how horrible this could have been for the family. They didn't know where he was, all the anguish the family went through and the young man went through, von Helm said. Eventually, Chong was discovered and the DEA issued a formal apology. Since then, Chong has been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and is being treated by a doctor who normally treats veterans who have returned from battle. Iredale said the doctor has never seen stress or trauma as significant as Chong's situation. He really did sustain a near-death experience, Iredale said. No criminal action would be taken against any individual officers, Iredale said Tuesday, but they hope there is at least a rebuke of the officers' alleged actions. So that's a horrible thing to happen, and it's interesting he got $4.1 million. I just heard of a case where a gentleman was in jail for 17 years, falsely accused of rape, proved his innocence, released him, and now I understand he's getting something like $2-point-something million. So that's for 17 years. So anyway, I came across this blog, and it kind of fit right into what we're talking about, especially this story. Reasons why I believe that my country has become a police state. I've been saying this for quite a while. A lot of friends of mine have said, "Oh, you're just being radical. You're just radical." But these things happen in small pieces at a time, and I thought this was an interesting piece that was written about it. There's 13 reasons, and number 13 fits right into the story that we just covered here, pretty close. Law enforcement agencies and their prosecutors who routinely withhold vital and relevant information from the defendant's legal representatives, and the fact that prosecutors and law enforcement agents are rarely, if ever, disciplined for such actions, thereby placing them above the law. And that's the same thing here. I mean, it wasn't withheld information, but the fact that they imprisoned him and left him and forgot him, and then won't have to suffer any consequences from it. I mean, we're suffering consequences. We got to pay the poor guy out of our money that we pay in taxes, but the people that actually did the deed will go unscathed, and that's unconscionable to me. But again, he's got to get badge. He's got the badge and the gun, so they got the advantage. After being an activist for almost 20 years, I've seen that over and over. But let's cover the other 12 issues here, and it makes a good point. These are reasons why I believe that my country has become a police state. The massive domestic spying committed by the federal intelligence community. This domestic surveillance is shared with various law enforcement agencies, and such spying is not just. Number 2, secret court that routinely grants warrants to the federal intelligence community. Number 3, the kidnapping of foreigners on foreign soil and the subsequent imprisonment of those who are kidnapped. Number 4, the Patriot Act. That's, well, good point. Number 5, it is now illegal for the federal government to kill Americans overseas without due process. Number 6, Gitmo at Guantanamo Bay. Need I say more? Number 7, the ongoing militarization of state and local police forces with the massive increases in SWAT raids conducted throughout our nation. Number 8, the use of violent force by various police agencies against peaceful protesters under the direction of Homeland Security. Just the name Homeland Security should probably be another point as to why this is a police state. The world's largest prison population by far. That's number 9. Number 10, the federal government employees are now asked to spy on their co-workers. Number 11, militarized borders. Number 12, the inhumane treatment of Bradley Manning. If Manning is found guilty in a court of law, that's one thing. But the inhumane treatment he has undergone in custody while awaiting trial has violated Manning's human rights. And by the way, the UN agrees on that. So that's, as I say, these things happen a little bit at a time, and then we don't see them, or at least John Q. Public doesn't see them. But as an activist, I've been quite aware of for quite some time. It's like the bumper sticker says, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. And here I have the drug war headlines for the week of July 25th. This comes from stopthedrugwar.org, excellent organization and website, recommended highly. This comes from the weekly chronicle that they send out. You can go online at the stopthedrugwar.org website and sign up for it, and get these news stories like I do. The first one says, with legalization looming, lessons from the Netherlands. Marijuana reform is accelerated in the United States. What lessons can we learn from the Dutch experience? A new report has some ideas. That's an article that's on that website. We've got a couple books that they reviewed. From the big picture of the origins and state of marijuana prohibition in America to the close-up portrait of one of the country's most pot-friendly and dependent local economies. Doug Fine delivers it with a book called Too Big to Fail. Another book review is on Smuggler Nation. If you have an interest in American history and how we got to where we are with the war on drugs, you need to read Smuggler Nation. You'll be glad you did. And this is really exciting. New Hampshire is now the 19th medical marijuana state. New Hampshire Governor Maggie Hassan has signed the medical marijuana bill into law. All of New England is now medical marijuana territory. Remember years ago there was a t-shirt manufacturer here locally, not manufacturer, but a screen printer, that put out a shirt, a hemp shirt by the way, with the map of the United States across the front and medical marijuana symbols in each state that had the law. And then right below it, it said fill in the blanks. So it'd be kind of neat to see that shirt today and see all the blanks have been filled in. So we're up to 19, and 20th is right around the corner. So we're at 19 right as of this headline report. See, medical marijuana update. See, we mentioned, 19th state, we mentioned that. Kentucky would like to become one too, and the local fussing continues in California. And in light news, the DEA strikes in Washington State. So that's the medical marijuana updates real quickly. The federal bill, it would up penalties for marijuana trespass grows. A new federal bill would heighten penalties for trespass grows of marijuana on public or private land if they cause environmental damage. Or we could just legalize it. But that's an interesting thing, that they're making increased penalties. So a lot of times people go out and grow on public land so that they won't get caught growing on their own land. But now they're going to try to up the penalties. So like I said, we just need to legalize, and that would take care of everything. In a profit-sharing scheme, Oklahoma DA used a contractor for highway drug stops. An Oklahoma prosecutor scheme to let a private security contractor profit from highway drug stop asset seizures has been unraveled amidst charges of policing for profit and policing for private profit. So that goes on, and that's in where else? Oklahoma. Medical marijuana push gears up in Kentucky. Kentucky State Senator Perry Clark will introduce his medical marijuana bill for the third time in January, but there is a hearing in August, and Clark and supporters are bringing the noise. Baltimore man is killed in a drug possession traffic stop. A Baltimore man is dead after police pulled over the vehicle in which he was riding on suspicion of drug possession, and a struggle ensued. So, another drug war victim. So it continues. So we're going to wrap this up here and then take a break, and we're going to be back with some more stories and information and news. So come on, we'll be right back. And I guess I should introduce myself, seeing I forgot at the beginning. This is DanK, and I'm holding down the fort, and we'll be right back.
If you're an adult who enjoys a good beer, there's a similar product you might want to know about. One without all the calories and serious health problems. Less toxic so it doesn't cause hangovers or overdose deaths, and it's not linked to violence or reckless behavior. Marijuana. Less harmful than alcohol, and time to treat it that way. For more information, visit marijuanaissafer.org.
Welcome back. You made the trip, the second segment of the Eugene Cannabis TV show. You got DanK here going over some news stories. We're a little bit short on guests and co-hosts today, so I've got it all by myself. You're welcome to come on down to the studios behind Sheldon High School, the ectv.498.2013-08-07 studios, 7:30 Monday night. We've got a special report here that was put out by the Huffington Post. That's at huffingtonpost.com. The DEA Special Operations Division covers up surveillance used to investigate Americans. A secretive U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration unit is funneling information from intelligence inserts, wiretaps, informants, and a massive database of telephone records to authorities across the nation to help them launch criminal investigations of Americans. Although these cases rarely involve national security issues, documents reviewed by Reuters show that law enforcement agents have been directed to conceal how such investigations truly begin, not only from defense lawyers, but also sometimes from prosecutors and judges. The undated documents show that federal agents are trained to recreate the investigative trail to effectively cover up where the information originated, a practice that some experts say violates a defendant's constitutional right to a fair trial. If defendants don't know how an investigation began, they cannot know to ask to review potential sources of exculpatory evidence, information that would reveal entrapment, mistakes, or biased witnesses. I have never heard anything like this at all, said Nancy Gertner, a Harvard Law School professor who served as a federal judge from 1994 to 2011. Gertner and other legal experts said the program sounds more troubling than recent disclosures that the National Security Agency has been collecting domestic phone records. The NSA effort is geared towards stopping terrorists. The DEA program targets common criminals, primarily drug dealers. It's one thing to create special rules for national security, Gertner said. Ordinary crime is entirely different. It sounds like they are phoning up investigations. The unit of the DEA that distributes the information is called the Special Operations Division, or SOD. 24 partner agencies comprise the unit, including the FBI, CIA, NSA, IRS, and the Department of Homeland Security. It was created in 1994 to combat Latin American drug cartels and has grown from several dozen employees to several hundred. Today, much of SOD's work is classified, and officials asked that its precise location in Virginia not be revealed. The documents reviewed by Reuters are marked law enforcement sensitive, a government characterization that is meant to keep them confidential. Remember that the utilization of SOD cannot be revealed or discussed in any investigative function, a document presented to agents reads. The document specifically directs agents to omit the SOD's involvement from investigative reports, affidavits, discussions with prosecutors, and courtroom testimony. Agents are instructed to then use normal investigative techniques to recreate the information provided by SOD. A spokesman for the Department of Justice, which oversees the DEA, declined to comment. But two senior DEA agents defended the program and said trying to recreate an investigative trail is not only legal, but a technique that is used almost daily. A former federal agent in the northeastern United States who received such tips from SOD described the process. You'd be told only, be at a certain truck stop at a certain time and look for a certain vehicle. And so we'd alert the state police to find the excuse to stop that vehicle and then have a drug dog search it, the agent said. After an arrest was made, agents then pretended that their investigation began with a traffic stop, not with the SOD tip, the former agent said. The training document reviewed by Reuters refers to this process as a parallel construction. The two senior DEA officials who spoke on behalf of the agency, but only on condition of anonymity, said the process is kept secret to protect sources and investigative methods. The parallel construction is a law enforcement technique we use every day, one official said. It's decades old, a bedrock concept. A dozen current or former federal agents reviewed by Reuters confirmed they had used parallel construction during their careers. Most defended the process. Some said they understood why those outside law enforcement might be concerned. It's just like laundering money. You work it backwards to make it clean, said Finn Salander, a DEA agent from 91 to 08, and now a member of a group called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, which advocates legalizing and regulating narcotics. Some defense lawyers and former prosecutors said that using parallel construction may be legal to establish probable cause for arrest, but they said employing the practice as a means of disguising how an investigation began may violate pretrial discovery rules by burying the evidence that could prove useful to criminal defendants. That's outrageous, said Tampa attorney James Fellman, a vice chairman of the criminal justice section of the American Bar Association. It strikes me as indefensible. Lawrence Lusberg, a New Jersey defense lawyer, said any systemic government effort to conceal the circumstances under which cases begin would only be alarming but pretty blatantly unconstitutional. So that's just an example of how the DEA works and what we're up against. And again, it goes on and on. So again, I go back to what we read in the first segment about becoming a police state. We need to fight back every chance we have, become active, and of course vote, and just do it. Letters to the editor, very, very effective. So now we've got the Stop the Drug War headlines from August 1st. Again, this is the stopthedrugwar.org headlines, and this is from the website, stopthedrugwar.org. Uruguay House passes the marijuana legalization bill. A bill to legalize and regulate marijuana markets and consumption has passed the lower house in the Uruguayan parliament and now heads for the Senate later this year. The Ohio Initiative campaign for medical marijuana is underway. Will Ohio go for medical marijuana in November 2014? The Ohio Rights Group is gathering signatures now to put the Ohio Cannabis Rights Amendment on the ballot next year. Canada, a Liberal Party leader says legalize marijuana. The leader of Canada's Liberal Party, Justin Trudeau, has re-energized the drug policy debate north of the border by calling for marijuana legalization. Again, these are headlines, the stories that you can find on stopthedrugwar.org. Medical marijuana update. A dispensary is now open for business in the nation's capital. Several dozen are coming to Arizona. Dispensary and cultivation battles continue in California. Massachusetts advocates prepared to protest restrictive regulations, and the DEA hits a Michigan dispensary. It just goes on and on. And of course, here in Oregon, we have the law has been passed to create medical marijuana dispensaries. Governor Kitzhofer is sitting on it. He hasn't signed it. He's just sitting on it. In this state, if he doesn't sign it within a certain time, it'll become law automatically, and frankly, I believe that's what he's doing. He's just waiting for it to become law. That way, by not signing it, he can save some political face by saying, well, at least I didn't sign it. So that's what I believe he's doing. He had it wrong when he was governor before, and said he was going to veto when the Oregon legislature recriminalized possession of pot in '97. The governor said he was going to veto it. When he actually came to in front of him, he not only didn't veto it, he signed it. Did a complete turnaround. So I haven't had much respect for the man since, and I'm getting even less now that he's sitting on the dispensary bill law. But we will have the dispensaries in Oregon. It's just that we won't have them until the very least until the 1st of January. Because this law doesn't take effect until the 1st of January. Just like our PTSD, which we finally got added to the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program. But it won't take effect till the 1st of January. Now, when these legislatures try to pass laws that are detrimental to the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program, and they claim that they're just passing laws to improve it, but we all know that they were to hurt it, they always put in the emergency clause. It's such an immediate problem. You've got to have it go into effect as soon as it's signed. Ordinarily, laws wait until the next quarter or end of the year. So here we got PTSD. We finally got it added to the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program. Had to do it through the legislature. Tried it twice through the regular procedures, but couldn't get it. We got it through the Oregon legislature, but guess what? Not until January. It's passed and signed, but nobody can use it for PTSD until the 1st of January, thanks to the wisdom of our people in Salem. So I guess on one hand, thanks for giving us PTSD, but onions to you for making people wait for it. But that's the way things go, and that's how it works in Salem. So anyway, that's the medical marijuana update in Oregon. The U.S. prisoner count declines again, but 330,000 still doing time for drugs. The overall U.S. prison population continues an achingly slow decline even as the federal prison population continues to expand. But there are still more than 330,000 drug war prisoners in America, and that's not even counting the jails. North Carolina welfare drug testing bill passes. A for-cause welfare drug testing bill has passed the North Carolina legislature and now awaits the governor's signature. And I'm sure if it does get signed, I bet it'll turn around and be found to be unconstitutional. That's what's happened so far every time. 2 Michigan towns have voted on marijuana decriminalization. And an Arizona man was holding an air rifle, was killed in a drug raid. A suburban Phoenix photographer was shot and killed by police on a drug raid Wednesday afternoon. His friends are skeptical of the official version of events. A Georgia narc was killed in a car crash en route to a bus. It's just a waste, and such a large waste trying to fight the battle and the war on drugs. The free or drug-free. America can't be both. That's what it says in the back of my car, and that's the way I live by, and I hope you do too. So we're going to wrap it up, and that's the news stories for this week, and we'll talk to you next week. I'll sure be here. I hope you will be. And if not, at least stay tuned. Thank you. DanK saying goodbye.
Do you suffer from fear of losing your election? Are you terrified that voters will discover you've done nothing to improve their lives? Maybe it's time you talk to your spin doctor about Incarcerex. In clinical trials, Incarcerex has been shown effective at reducing election-related anxieties by making voters think you're doing something about the drug problem. It's simplistic and fast-acting. If your problems continue or get worse, you can always double or triple your dose of Incarcerex. Whether it's addiction, therapeutic use, or just casual use, there's an Incarcerex plan for every American. Best of all, taxpayers, not you, will foot the bill. So talk to your spin doctor about Incarcerex today. Common side effects include loss of civil liberties, police corruption, racial injustice, increased terrorism, spread of HIV and AIDS, and violent crime. Bloated prisons are also a common side effect. Stop taking Incarcerex if bloating lasts longer than 20 years. If you're trying to balance the budget, keep families together, or protect human rights, Incarcerex may not be right for you. Do not mix Incarcerex with the Constitution or common sense. So start taking Incarcerex and keep pretending you're doing something about the drug problem.